Ready?
Ready.
Hi, my name is Hans-Peter Meyer, and today I'm talking to Chef Philipe Gagne here in the Breakwater Restaurant at Kingfisher Resort, just south of Courtenay. Good afternoon,
Good
Philippe.
afternoon, Hans.
And this month, the Breakwater Restaurant, this is March 2013, the Breakwater is sponsoring the Vancouver Island Local Food Hero Challenge. So we're asking people to talk about who their personal food hero is. Who is that person who taught you about the joys of local food? And that's what I'm going to ask you about, Philippe. So you do have local food on the menu here, lots of fresh seafood from the region. But I know from our conversations that local matters to you. Why does it matter, and who taught you about this?
The first person that taught me was definitely through my parents and through growing up in nearby a farm in Quebec, south of Quebec City. That's where I got to see through what it took to actually grow the food, whether it was the fresh milk, tomatoes, cucumbers. I got to see the richness of that product through the fact that it didn't go through a store before I get to taste it.
But wasn't it just a lot of hard work at that point? I mean, were you actually appreciating the food, or were you just resenting having to work at it?
Yeah, no, I think the hard work, it didn't feel like work. Every time I was on the farm, it was a lot of joy more than work. It didn't feel like work at all. No, it was it was a lot of fun. I always appreciate the time I spent working on the farm. There was never a time where I don't think that I can remember, and no matter how hard it was.
Were you making food at home as a kid?
My mom told me that I started, fairly early, trying to make some sort of white sauce. I'm not too sure what it was for, but I think it might have been for dessert, or I don't recall the exact recipe, but I think that's where it's part of what's really important is when you make food, that it motivates you and that it makes you happy. That's really important.
So when did you start cooking professionally, and who were the formative people around that?
I started cooking professionally a bit later in life because I ended up being a father fairly early and was kind of a little confused about what I would have to choose. But there was some influence around the time I was 19 or 20 years old. I went to Hawaii and worked at a bed and breakfast there, where the chef there, David Phillips, made some kind of banquet type, but really focused on fresh halibut and fresh salmon and some really nice pies. So he would make a really nice setup, but it wasn't a restaurant really itself. And he was really creative and didn't have recipes. Like, he would throw things together and everybody would be amazed. And so I really liked the emotion and the gathering around the gathering was really fun. Like, so it made me want to develop a bit in that way, where I didn't really feel like I needed to fit in how my development, like in how I learned to cook. It didn't need to be through school, and that's why I guess I made it all the way being self-taught. But I always tried to choose places that I knew would influence me. So from there, we went back and lived in Aldergrove, actually on a farm, on an old farm. And then I got to start working at a French restaurant in White Rock, and another restaurant called Uli's in White Rock, and for a year, and then went to Cin Cin, which was an Italian restaurant, which obviously Italian is a big part of this slow food movement.
So for people who don't know about slow food, what's slow food about?
Slow food is I think mostly to appreciate the time that food takes to make and the time that it takes to grow, but also to appreciate making it and not be so rushed and not feel like the rest of your life stops you from being able to make a nice dinner, where I think that's a lot a lot of society went wrong when it started to feel too rushed about working and not really wanting to focus on the fact that you had to make a meal and what joy it could bring you. Because I know as a kid, one thing I felt too about dinner is that it brings us together and it gives us a chance to talk about our day or our week or some. So that's another really nice thing that I appreciate about slow food, is also slow pacing ourselves around the fact that it gives us a moment to enjoy, and we don't need to rush through that moment to enjoy, to make sure we enjoy TV after or work before, and kind of take that away from the fact that making a meal is something that should be enjoyed.
So how do you get to do that here in a very busy restaurant and a very busy resort?
I think you have to keep yourself calm a lot of times, and not let necessarily what the business kind of try to make you feel. You have to take care of yourself, really, and just stay calm is really important through. But you
talked about someone on a chef on Salt Spring, and was it Hastings House that you worked at there?
Yeah, Hastings House was the change after working in the city in Vancouver for 2.5 years or so, and working at Cin Cin where it was really busy. I needed to exactly calm down a bit because the hours were getting to me and I felt really tired. So moving to Salt Spring, as soon as I landed with my bicycle and went for my interview, I knew that there was something that was precious there and that could reach me deeper into my development around learning to really love the food again, and not just feel like a robotic kind of person that is just making food really fast. And I just knew that I would have more time to enjoy the actual love of the food. So the setting was fairly small. Like the most we would do in a night would be 40 customers, and they would all get their first course at the same time, all get their second and third course at the same time, and then choose from a few mains. So that was really calming, and it was nice to see a service with such quietness and organized. And then from there, everything came local, the much as we could. Like the chef Thomas Render at the time was a really big influence into creating that aspect of. That aspect is a reality and can be a reality in a restaurant where you basically almost. He wanted to get to the point where you almost don't need anymore the big purveyors, and so I appreciated that and learned a lot from that, and learned that it's possible.
So as you said, you're in a very busy situation here, or you just said in the high season you're getting between 80 to 120 people a night. You don't get to have that kind of slow pace, but you are trying to create this. So can you tell me about how you create that with these special events?
Yeah, well, the main thing was to refocus the menu. When I first came here, the menu was really extensive, and I felt that it was, first of all, it was hard to shine. To make sure that we could shine, there needed to be more focus and not this all over the map kind of menu. It needed to be so.
Well, we're gonna talk about the new menu here in our next conversation. But thank you very much. So you've given us a little bit of a slice of what it's like to come from rural Quebec, and then to cook in a very busy restaurant in Vancouver, then Salt Spring, and now you're here at the Breakwater. Thank you very much, Philippe.
Yeah, you're welcome, Hans.
And thank you for watching.